Today's aim, we're going to be able to find the area perimeter of triangles, rectangles, and circles. I'm going to put an asterisk mentally next to circles because we don't call the perimeter of a circle perimeter. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. All right. This should be 100% review, things that you've learned in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. So this should not take long today other than the arithmetic itself because all of the ideas should already be in your brain. That's why we need a lot of participation to make sure we get through this as quickly as possible so we don't have to waste our time, your time or mine. All right, so here we're looking at a rectangle. We know it's a rectangle that has 4 sides and 4 right angles. We all know what rectangles look like. What is the area of a rectangle? Katie. So Katie says it is area equals length times width. That's very interesting. The other class told me base times height. Just different terminology. Means the same thing. How do I know what the length and the width of a rectangle are? Javier. Which one's length and which one's width? While Javier thinks about this, let me ask him another question. Javier, does it matter which one's length and width? Rebecca says no. Rebecca, why not? We're just going to multiply them, and multiplication is mutative. So it definitely does not matter. So I'm going to pick, this is my length. I'm going to say this is equal to my length, and this is equal to my width. Doesn't matter. So I'm going to plug those into my equation. That's area equals 7.22 times 4.5. I'm going to find some space over here to do my multiplication. 7.2 times 4.5. 0, 1, 36. Oops. 0, 8. 29, 0, 4, carry the 1, 3, carry the 1. And I got, wait, 2 decimal places, 1, 2, 1, 2. Area is equal to 33.4. What's wrong with my answer? Oh, wow. What's wrong with my answer? Juan? Yeah, it doesn't have units. Now, we're talking about area here. What's true about the units of area? No matter what it is, no matter what we've measured initially in, centimeters, inches, miles, feet, kilometers. What's true about the units of area? Kenneth? It's always square units. So here we're talking about centimeters, so we want centimeters squared. Because remember when we're talking about area, we're talking about, well, how many little centimeter cubes, or excuse me, centimeter squares can I fit inside that particular shape? Okay? Perimeter. What is the perimeter of a rectangle? Adriana. Add them all. So we add all sides. How many sides are there to a rectangle? Wait, I only have 2 numbers here. I don't get it. What do you mean there's 4 sides? I've got to add all sides. Janelle? They're equal. So we know what we know about rectangles is opposite sides are equivalent. So this comes over here. This is 4.5. As I write them into my equation, I'm always going to mark them out as I go because it's very easy, maybe not in a rectangle, but definitely in more complex shapes, to forget various things as you move along. Yes, Manuel?
Isn't the area of the rectangle 32.4? Because 4 times 2 is 8, and then 4 times 27 is 28, not 29.
Something like that. All right, so here for the perimeter, we need to add up. Very careful, for some of you are still struggling with decimal operations. When we add decimals, we have to line them up. In this case, it's probably pretty obvious because they all seem to line up naturally anyway. So 4 is 4, carry the 1. 8, 15, 19, 23.4. What's wrong with my answer? Forgot my units. What should my units be, Kendrick? Centimeters. Not centimeters squared? Not centimeters squared? No, not centimeters squared, because this is talking about perimeter. Remember, perimeter is talking about the distance around, not squares inside. So it's like you're walking around in a circle and you're finding out how far did I walk. Yes, Kendrick?
All right, couldn't you multiply the numbers times 2 and then add them?
You could. I like this way better. I think it's faster. I think it's less likely to make mistakes. But that's just me. Everybody has their own opinions. Javier? A cube? Okay, moving on to the next problem. Here we have a triangle. It says find the area and perimeter. So let's start with area of a triangle. Area of a triangle is equal to you know this, so I should have more than one person participating. Area of a triangle, Graciela. Base times height divided by 2. Base times height divided by 2. Now, how do I know what the base and height of a triangle are? This is way trickier than base and height of a rectangle. Rebecca. Okay, so she says it's always a dotted line in the middle of a triangle. Let's make it a little bit more specific here. Now, that dotted line is very specially oriented to one of the sides. How is that dotted line always going to be oriented to one of the sides? What's the relationship between that dotted line and this side that it connects with? Manuel. Highest point to lowest point. Okay. What about that? Now it's no longer the highest point to the lowest point. What's very, very special about the relationship between the bottom of this triangle and that dotted line? Kenneth. What do you think, Javier? Nope.
That's so long.
Shh. What is the relationship here? How do these two lines interact? This one here and this one here.
Isn't that the area?
Malcolm. There's no numbers here. I'm not even talking about numbers. I'm saying I'm looking at these two lines. What is very special about how these two lines interact? Yes. They make a right angle. So, this is super important. No matter what the triangle is, no matter how the triangle is oriented, the base and the height must always be perpendicular. They must have a right angle. So if you are not given two sides of a triangle that are perpendicular to each other, then you're not given a base and a height. So if I give you a triangle that looks like this, and I give you a dotted line that tells you the distance in the middle is 7.2, did I give you the height? No, I absolutely did not. Because this is definitely not a right angle down here. Definitely not a right angle down here. So the only way to know that a triangle has given you a base and a height is if that base and that height are perpendicular at a right angle. Okay? That's super important to know about the base and height of a triangle. In this particular case, that tells us, though, that our base and our height are what? Adriana. They're perpendicular. What are my two numbers for this problem? Raisa. 7.8 times 3.5 divided by 2. Do the multiplication first. So we get 27.3 over 2. Now we can do that division by putting the top dog in the house. Goes in one time. Goes in 3 times. Goes in 6 times. And haunt the house because we need one more. Ends up going in 5 times. So we get our area is equal to 13.65. Why would I mark this answer wrong? One. Units. What are the units? Centimeters squared, because we're talking about area. So it's got that square units. All right, let's talk about the perimeter. What's the perimeter of a triangle? Kendrick, what's the perimeter of a triangle? So I hear him kind of saying that we add all sides. Now, how many sides does a triangle have?
3.
So if I have 3 sides to a triangle and I need to add all sides, how come I've got 4 numbers here? Which one doesn't matter?
The one in the middle.
So Kendrick says the one in the middle, because we're talking about our triangle are these sides. That's our outside of our triangle. So that's what we're worried about in our perimeter. Perimeter means outside. So P equals 6.4 plus 4.3 plus 7.8. So I'm going to add all of that up. 6.4, 4.3, 7.8, 5, carry the 1, 18.5. Why is my answer wrong?
Because you need the units.
Didn't put in the units. What should my units be? Centimeters. Okay. So that covers 2/3 of our lesson for today. Considering our lesson is to find area and perimeter of triangles and rectangles. We've dealt with triangles and rectangles. Now we need to move on to circles. Have our circles on the other side. Now this says find area and circumference. I didn't say anything about circumference earlier. Our aim doesn't say anything about circumference. What is circumference? How does that fit into today's work? Raisa. So what I hear her saying is that it is like the... Actually, we don't need to cross it out. The circumference is the same as the perimeter of the circle. It's the distance around the circle. Now, our equations for circumference and area are very special for circles. Area of a circle. Javier. Area of a circle. Manuel. Pi times r squared. What is pi? Michael? Pi does not equal 3.14. That is an estimate of pi. It's not 0.14 repeating. It's a number. Remember, it's an irrational number. So it goes on and on and on and on and on forever and actually never repeats. So I can only remember the first 5 digits. It's 3.14159, blah, 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 blah. So we estimate it as 3.14 because that makes it easier. Today, I'm actually going to say, for the problems that we're doing today, just so we can get through with our classwork, we're going to estimate that pi is equal to 3. On your homework, though, I tell you to estimate pi is equal to 3.14, so recognize the difference there. Today, I just want to make sure we get through our work. So, area of a circle is equal to 3 times r squared. Am I given the radius of this circle? No, I'm given the diameter. How am I going to find the radius? 1. Divide the diameter by 2, so 0.9 divided by 2. Decimal is going to be 4. So my radius is 0.45. That's going to be your first step of any circle problem. I don't care what it's asking you for. When you see a circle problem, you should determine what's given to you, diameter or radius, and find the other. So I should always see these two statements about what diameter and radius are as the first part of your work. If you don't have the diameter and the radius, then you have not completed your work. So we get 0.45 squared. So if I'm simplifying this expression to find the area, what do I need to do first? If I'm simplifying this, what do I need to do first? Thinking about order of operations, Julia. What do I need to do first? Yeah, do the exponent. So that's 0.45 squared. That's 0.45 times 0.45. 5 carry the 2 is 225. And 0 carry a 2. 4 times 4 is 16. Plus 2 is 18. 5 is 2 is 0. Let's carry the 1. It's 2. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places in my answer. So I have 3 times 0.0. Sorry. 3 times 0.2025. And so I need to multiply by 3. I'm just going to go ahead and do that multiplication there. 5, carry the 1, 7, 0, 6, decimal point. Area is equal to 0.0, did it again, 0.6075. Why is my answer incorrect, Kevin? Nothing to add. Pi times r squared, nothing to add. Right, so what's wrong with my answer? Why is it wrong? No units. What are the units? Why is my answer wrong? Jose? I just added the units and I put miles. Why is my answer wrong? Adriana? Yeah, it's a square mile. So with standard units, we don't often write miles squared. A lot of times you'll find your answer written as 6.6075 square SQ miles. Those mean the same thing. However, it's just one of those weird things that usually when you're using standard units, miles, feet, yards, inches, they usually say it as square miles and write it as SQMI or square whatever. It's just a weird thing. That's most often the way it's done. And now let's talk circumference. Who remembers the equation for circumference? Katie. Pi times d. So we already said earlier that we're going to use pi as 3, and our diameter is what? Nicole, our diameter is what? So I'm not looking over here at the second circle yet. I'm still finding the circumference of this first circle. Our diameter for this first circle is what? It's not 0.18. 0.9. It says diameter is 0.9. That was really easy, actually. Some problems are really easy, so don't make them harder than you have to. 3 times 0.9, that's going to have 1 decimal place in it, 2.7. Wait, what's wrong with my answer? Javier.
When you multiply by 5. We didn't have the, what's it called, units.
What are the units?
Miles. Square.
Should it be squared? So remember, circumference is like perimeter. It's a measure of distance. So we don't measure distance in squares. I don't say, I am 4 square feet from Adriana. Right? I'm just 4 feet away. Okay? Distance is always measured without square units. It's just a single unit. Right? I don't want to do the entirety of this problem. I just want to quickly talk about the circumference for this one. Circumference is pi times d. However, they didn't give me the diameter. They gave me the radius. Remember, the first thing that we should do anytime we encounter one of these problems is to write the radius and the diameter. So if the radius is 8, the diameter is so where we have to think very, very carefully. So there's a times 2 divided by 2 relationship between radius and diameter. Diameter is the complete across, so diameter should always be bigger than radius. So we need to multiply by 2 here, gives me 16 inches. So C is equal to 3 times 16. C is equal to 48 units. Inches. Okay.